Welcome to my review of Contra 3 The Alien Wars for the Super Nintendo. In the beginning here, you can choose how many lives you want to start with on each continue and your difficulty. I believe hard mode gives you a few extra stages. So on normal, I believe you're seeing most of the game, but there might be like a few extra bosses or something at the end that you don't get to see on normal. I think easy might actually just end short. But I'm not sure about that, but there were a lot of games that did that back then, such as Super Smash TV, but I'm not sure if this game did that. I know normal ends a little bit early, though. Hard is quite a bit harder. It's actually a nice jump. It's not one of those early games that has subtle difficulty differences between the difficulty modes. I mean, at least between normal and hard. When you play on hard, you're getting quite a more difficult game. It's not quite the difference of an extreme mode, like when you play a modern game like, Halo 2 on normal compared to Legendary or something like that. It's not like those extreme modes in modern games where it's a huge fucking jump in difficulty, but it's a pretty significant upgrade in difficulty from normal to hard, which is pretty cool to see for a game back then. Sega Genesis especially was guilty of having a lot of difficulty modes where you play it on normal or hard or easy and normal. Sometimes you'd go between, even if you compared it between easy and hard, the difficulty just wasn't that much harder. It was super subtle on a lot of old games. And it happened on all the games of those times, really. I mean, across all of them. Some of them were better than others with that. Of course, Metal Storm for NES has an expert mode that's only unlockable through a code, and that was just fucking ridiculous hard. But that was a different story. But this game has a nice variety. You have your overhead levels. Now, I think these are the weakest aspect of the game, where you rotate your character with the left and right bumpers on the controller. And, you walk around and kind of just rotate your character and shoot. And I think these were the weakest aspects of the game, definitely. They're just slower paced. They're more irritating and tedious. And they're especially irritating on hard mode, where enemies take a lot more hits, and I just found them to be super irritating on that mode. Now, on normal, they weren't too hard to deal with, but they were still the least enjoyable levels for me, and I found them to be kind of the most boring levels. Gym Power for the Super Nintendo, another game I've mentioned before. Extremely difficult game that I did a tutorial on. That game stole a lot from this game, including those shitty rotating stages. And that's the worst aspect of the game for me. But now, aside from maybe two levels in this game, because two of the stages, I believe there's two stages that use that overhead view where you rotate your character. But the rest of the game is all top-notch, side-scrolling running gun. It's some of the best ever made, even standing up to, to the indie games that have tried to imitate it today. It even, it still beats most of those games. Though I have to say, Val Ferris is quite a bit better than this. It's pretty, it's a different type of side-scrolling action game in the way it plays, but I would say, for a side-scrolling, action game based around mass killing and shit, I think Val Ferris far exceeds this, and I recommend checking that one out. Also did a review on that, but yeah, this game, the bosses, they do have multiple phases to them a lot of times, and they're interesting to fight, but it's all pattern memorization. So, as most of these 16-bit games, it's all about memorizing where to position yourself and when, and what to shoot. But this was a cool boss. This is one of the cooler bosses presentation-wise and a fun one to fight. But a lot of the patterns are pretty simple and not that complex in this game, with maybe one exception. There's one boss that I always found quite hard, and I didn't really learn it. I have a tutorial on this game, and I'll link that in the description, but I didn't really learn this one boss too well, because I had so many lives, I farmed up a bunch of lives. So the tutorial gets a little sloppy at the end since I farmed up a bunch of lives. I was able to play sloppy and still beat the game. I should probably replay this one and do it without farming, like I did with the Double Dragon Advanced Expert 1cc run, where I had farmed some lives initially, and then I went back and did it without. And that was definitely an extreme challenge in that case. So yeah, you got these motorcycle riding type stage, so it gives you some variety, where you control the vehicle and you shoot shit. And then you transition to the helicopter. I mean, the transitions are great and all the action. Now, this is the hardest boss in the game by far. Most of them really aren't that bad, even the final boss, once you get the patterns down. Actually, no, this isn't it. First you fight that little man, which was pretty damn easy. But now this part right here is probably the hardest boss in the game, at least for me. I always burn a lot of lives on this part. I didn't practice it enough. Usually I practice these kind of sections with save states to really, get them down so that I can play them well. I didn't really put enough time into this, as you can see. I really didn't have it down. But I had farmed a lot of lives, so I knew I could kind of just bust through and play kind of sloppy. So that's what I ended up doing. But this is probably the hardest boss in the game, at least for me. But it is a cool fight how you're riding these missiles while shooting at this thing the whole time. I think it's a very cool boss fight. And the whole game is just non-stop great action, great presentation. And I would say it's among the best, side-scrolling action games even to this day. Now I would separate this from games such as Donkey Kong Country and Super Mario Brothers because those aren't, run-and gunners, you know what I mean? So by side-scrolling action game, I mean more games where your focus is kind of just to run through and kill shit, mostly with some, maybe with some platforming mixed in. And I think this is still one of the best of that style. And you can see this fight can go on for a while if you play it shitty like I did. But I guess that wasn't too bad. I guess I didn't lose too many lives like I remember. But so maybe that was a decent attempt, but still a little sloppy. But you got a nice amount of stages. I don't remember exactly how many hours this took. I probably have that listed in my tutorial version. I would have had a check beforehand, which I didn't do. You do have some of the bosses returning from the previous game, the first Contra, where you have the heart, and you have bosses that return from Super Contra, and various entries. So it is a cool little flashback to past games. Of course, you remember this was the final boss in Super Contra. And there's another boss from Super Contra in here as well. So there's various, callbacks, throwbacks, whatever you want to call it, to the previous games. Now, I believe by alternating spread shot to spread shot or the C weapon in spread shot, I'm able to get a faster fire rate, and that's what you see me doing here. That's why you see me switching weapons rapidly, swapping between. But aside from that, you can just switch your weapons. You can hold two different weapons, I believe. So when you can pick up two different weapons and swap between them, but if you die, whatever weapon you were carrying will go away. You'll have to collect it again later if you want it back. And you do respawn right where you died, though, until you waste all your current lives. Once your lives go away, you have to start back at the beginning of the stage if you continue, and you only have maybe 2 or 3 continues, I believe. Now, this is the final boss. I severely edited it down. But keep in mind, it's also much, it's a limited fight. If you play on hard, you get to fight more forms of the final boss. I think that's what's added to hard mode. I don't know if there's any extra stages. I think it might just be an extra form or two of the final boss. But you are missing a little bit of the game if you play it on normal. But, I mean, playing on normal is a pretty satisfying completion anyway, so you're not missing that much. But hard is definitely a nice added challenge if you really like the game and want to go for more of a challenge. I didn't really play hard much. I played it very briefly, but I didn't work on it. On hard, you would also fight a boss that comes up to you on this helicopter that you have to shoot down at. I don't know if that's in normal. I don't remember if it is. I mean, we'll see here in a moment, but I think that might be excluded, and there might be some other additional content that you miss out at the end. But you pretty much, I think you get most of the game on normal, so that's a good difficulty to play on and start on. Easy, I think, might end early. But yeah, overall, I'd give this game an 8 out of 10. I think it still holds up to the best imitators, indie games that try to imitate. I think it still holds up to all of them, like Blazing Chrome is another great one. I think this is up there with that. Maybe even better. But, something like Valfaris, I gave a 9 out of 10. I think that has the edge. I think games like that really have, taken inspiration from modern games like, the ability to reflect projectiles and things like that and really increased, the just how well they play and, how much skill is involved. So, yeah, I definitely recommend, if you haven't played this game, this is definitely one of the ones to play, especially if you're looking at retro games. This is one of the best of that time and still holds up. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.